Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Putri Maharani and today we will learn about figurative language in the poem. But before that, do you know what poem I will teach you today? No? Okay, I'll tell you. Today is the day that we will learn the famous poem entitled I Wander Lonely as a Cloud by William Wordsworth. Before I read this poem, I will tell you about the poet and the background of this poem. So, I Wander Lonely as a Cloud is one of the best love poems of the fountain of romanticism William Wordsworth. This poem features how the spontaneous emotion of the poet's heart, sparked by the energetic dance of daffodils, helped him pen down this sweet little piece. On 15 April 1802, Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy came across a host of daffodils around Glensunny Bay in the Lake District. This event was the inspiration behind the composition of Wordsworth's lyric poem. Daffodil, or I Wander Lonely as a Cloud, has been dissected methodically for illustrating the poet's mood, the surrounding location, the allegorical meaning, and the beauty of nature in full motion. The poet's love and proximity to nature have inspired and moved generation after generation of poetry lovers and young minds. The form of I Wander Lonely as a Cloud is relatively simple. The poem consists of 4 sestets, 6-line stanza, adding up to 24 lines in total. It is told in the past tense up until the final stanza, which means that the reader imaginatively participates in the speaker memory as the speaker reconstructs it. For example, just as the daffodil appeared suddenly to the speaker, they also enter suddenly in line 4, line 3 till halfway through line 17. All develop the description of the daffodil, emphasizing their human-like dancing, their visual beauty, and their abundance. The meter in I Wander Lonely as a Cloud is consists iambic tetrameter with a few careful and deliberate exceptions. Generally, the iambic tetrameter has an almost walking pace in line with the poems. Mine set up the speaker wandering in the countryside. The lines are mostly even and measured, similar to proposal but unhurried footsteps. Considered one of the most significant examples of romantic poetry, I Wander Lonely as a Cloud explores the relationship between nature and humanity. In doing so, it makes 2 key points. Firstly, it argues that humanity is not separate from nature, but rather part of it. And secondly, it suggests that the natural world and a strong bond with it is essential to human happiness. So the reader might be fooled by the suggestion of solitude in the title. This is an optimistic poem with a positive outlook on the world. This happiness is drawn for the speaker interaction with nature, in turn encouraging the reader to appreciate the natural majesty that is all around them. The poem introduces the idea of loneliness in the first line, but the speaker is not really alone at all. The speaker is in the presence of a host of golden daffodils, whose delicate dancing in the wind has a long-lasting effect on the speaker's mind. The setup introduces a sense of togetherness between humanity, represented by the speaker, and nature, represented by the daffodil. And though this togetherness is partly rendered by the personification of the daffodils that runs through the poem, they are dancing in every stanza. The speaker emphatically flips this personification on its head in the very first line. Here, the speaker compares himself to a natural element, a cloud, so the human component of the poem is like nature, and the natural component is like humanity. They are in word together. So, I Wander Lonely as a Cloud argue for a strong connection between experience, imagination, and language. The poem itself is a memory focused on bringing the speaker's experience of seeing daffodil back to life on the path through the concentrated power of imagination. Like nature, the imagination was an integral part of the poetic universe of the Romantics. And in this poem, the speaker shows way in which strong images, using the inward eye of the mind, can bring back pleasant memory, create joy in the present, and even pass joy along to others. The poem is told retrospectively with all the verbs up until the final stanza in the past tense. The speaker is looking back an experience from the past. It is then an effort on the speaker's part not just to recall an experience, but to breathe new life into it through the imagination. The speaker doesn't only want to acknowledge the experience, but somehow give it life again, and in turn conjure the same joyful feeling. The speaker also projects human emotion onto the daffodils. Jocund company means cheerful. Of course, the daffodil didn't experience the world in this way. The speaker is seeing their own state of mind reflected back in the visual effect of the flowers. That imagination leaves behind the experience, arguably making the speaker feel a strong connection to nature. Okay? Now we move to brief intro about the poet. So, William Wordsworth was born on 7 April 1770 at Cockermouth in Cambridge. His father was a lawyer, but Wordsworth's parents died before he was 15, and he and his 4 siblings were left in the care of different relatives. As a young man, Wordsworth developed a love of nature, a theme reflected in many of his poems. While studying at Cambridge University, Wordsworth spent a summer holiday on a walking tour in Switzerland and France. He became an enthusiast for the ideal of the French Revolution. He began to write poetry while he was at school, but none was published until 1793. In 1795, Wordsworth received a legacy from a close relative, and he and his sister Dorothy went to live in Dorset. 2 years later, they moved again, this time to Somerset, to live near the poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who was an admirer of Wordsworth's work. They collaborated on Lyrical Ballad, published in 1798. This collection of poems, mostly by Wordsworth, but with Coleridge contributing, the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner is generally taken to mark the beginning of the Romantic movement in English poetry. The poems were greeted with hostility by most critics. In 1799, Wordsworth and Dorothy settled at Dove Cottage in Grasmere in Lake District. After a visit to Germany with Coleridge, Coleridge lived nearby with his family. Wordsworth's most famous poem, I Wander Lonely as a Cloud, was written at Dove Cottage in 1804. In 1813, Wordsworth moved from Grasmere to nearby Ambleside. He continued to write poetry, but it was never as great as his early works. After 1835, he wrote a little more. In 1842, he was given a government pension, and the following year became poet laureate. Wordsworth died on 23 April 1850 and was buried in the Grasmere churchyard. His great autobiographical poem, The Prelude, which he had worked on since 1798, was published after his death. Okay. Now it's time for me to read this poem. I hope you enjoy it. Hello everyone, my name is Putri Maharani, and on this occasion I will read a poem by William Wordsworth with the title I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. I wandered, lonely as a cloud that floats on higher vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the tree, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. They stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The wave beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling wave in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gaze and gaze, but little thought what wealth the show to me hath brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils. That's all for me. Thank you very much, and bye-bye. Okay guys, what do you think about this poem after I read it? Do you catch something interesting in this poem? Maybe yes, maybe no. So let's get started. First is about the definition. So, what is figurative language? Figurative language refers to the use of words in a way that deviates from the conventional order and meaning to convey a complicated meaning, colorful writing, clarify or evocative comparison. It uses an ordinary sentence to refer to something without directly stating it. Figurative language is a way to engage your reader, guiding them through your writing with a most creative tone. Although it's often debated how many types of figurative language there are, it is safe to say there are 12 common types. Anytime your writing goes beyond the actual meaning of your work, you're using figurative language. This allows the reader to gain new insight into your work. While there are 12 common types, the 5 main branches of the figurative language tree include metaphor, simile, personification, hyperbole, and symbolism. In this poem, 6 figurative languages are used. Did you guys know what kind of figurative language it is? No? So I will tell you. First is personification. Personification is so prominent within I Wander Lonely as a Cloud that it can almost be considered the poem's mode. This device mainly functions by ascribing human emotion to the natural world. This is not a one-way exchange. However, it is part of an overall argument for a closer relationship between humanity and nature. In seeing element of itself, nature, humanity can see itself as part of nature. 3 different aspects of nature are personified in the poem. The first personification occurs in the first line. It's subtle because it's wrapped up in the speaker comparing themselves to a cloud, which is in fact the reverse of personification. But the speaker characterized their wandering as lonely and specifically akin to the loneliness of a cloud. In reality, loneliness is human emotion, and of course, no one felt by clouds. This personification helped to link the human speaker with the natural environment in which they walk. The main personification applies to the daffodil. They are described as a crowd and horse. And on 3 occasions, they are said to be dancing. Dance is particularly important. People dance as an expression of joy and or as a method of togetherness. Dance has also played a key role in human history as a ritualistic expression of spirituality, as the poem is sought joy, togetherness with nature, and a spiritual way of seeing humankind's place in nature. The projection of dancing movement onto the daffodil reinforces all of this idea. The third personification is in line 13, when the waves are also described as dancing. Here, there is sense that the speaker is perceiving nature in motion, and though the daffodil utter the wave in joyfulness, the overall effect is that the entire scene contains an essence fundamental to human happiness. Second is simile. A simile is a figure of speech in which two essential dissimilar objects or concepts are experimentally compared with one another through the use of like or as. A simile is used as a literary device to assert similarity with the help of like or as, which are language constructs that establish equivalent. A proper simile creates an explicit comparison between two things that are differently enough from each other such that comparability appears unlikely. A simile is a device used to compare the object to another to help readers understand or clarify the meaning. There are two similes used in this poem. I wander lonely as cloud. He compared his loneliness with a single cloud. The second is used in the opening of line of the second stanza. Continue as the stars that shine. Here, Wordsworth compared the endless row of daffodil with countless stars. Third is metaphor. A metaphor is a figure of speech that makes a comparison between two non-similar things. As a literary device, a metaphor creates implicit comparison within the expressed use of like or as. A metaphor is means of asserting that two things are identical in comparison rather than just similar. This is useful in literature for using specific images or concepts to state abstract truth. In the last stanza, Wordsworth used one metaphor in this form. They flash upon that inward eye. Here, inward eye represents the sweet memory of daffodils. The poet compared the daffodil with stars shining in the galaxy, as like the star, the daffodils were everywhere. Next, he described his joys in terms of wealth, for him seeing them in his wealth. He calls the shore of the lake a line, which is also a metaphor. He calls daffodil a bliss of solitude, so there are important metaphors in the form I wander lonely as a cloud. Okay, next is imagery. Imagery is literary device used in poetry, novels, and other writing that use vivid description that appeals to reader's sense to create an image or idea in their head. Through language, the imagery does not only paint a picture, but aims to portray the sensational and emotion experience within the text. Imagery can improve a reader's experience of the text by immersing them more deeply by appealing to their sense. Imagery in writing can aim at a reader's sense of taste, smell, touch, hearing, or sight through vivid description. Imagery can be created using other literary devices like simile, metaphor, or onomatopoeia. You have to read into the poem a bit, but Wordsworth is trying to associate the flowers with angelic or heavenly being. Maybe he was thinking of Dante's Paradiso from the Divine Comedy, in which all the angels and blessed soul of heaven from a big flower. However, Wordsworth is more naturalistic poet than Dante, and so the imagery of angel is extremely subtle. Fifth is hyperbole. Hyperbole is a figure of speech and literary device that creates a brightened effect through deliberate exaggerating. Hyperbole is often a boldly overstated or exaggerated claim or statement that adds emphasis without the intention of being true. In rhetoric and literature, hyperbole is used for serious, comic, or ironic effect. The most glaring example of hyperbole in this poem is the persona's statement regarding the number of daffodils. The scratch in never-ending line. 10,000 snow-white clouds tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The poet, of course, could not have known the number of flowers that stood before him. especially since he only saw them at a glance. Also, the lines of daffodils could not have been really never-ending. These statements are then not meant to relate to the actual number of the daffodils that the poet witnessed, but instead to the overwhelming effect of the expansive meadow of flowers. 6 is symbol. Symbolism is a literary device that refers to the use of symbols in a literary work. A symbol is something that states for or suggests something else. It represents something beyond the literal meaning. In literature, a symbol can be a word, object, action, character, or concept that embodies and evokes a range of additional meaning and significance. The cloud is a symbol which represents loneliness. Moreover, the cloud is naturally incompatible with Earth's face or human beings, but the poet's close identification with the cloud reveals his loneliness, isolation, and desolation from the world around him. In the second stanza, he compared the distance between the clouds, forests, and hills, which means he is aware but not happy with his separation from the immediate world. Okay guys, before conclusion, in this poem, there are some words that maybe you don't know the meaning, so I will tell several words. First is OR, a contraction of over. Second is fails, another word for failures. Third is host. In this instance, host means a large gathering. Additionally, the word host is often used in biblical context to describe a group of angels, which hints at the ideas of a divine presence here. 4 is daffodil. Daffodil is bright yellow flowers. Their blooming is associated with the beginning of spring. 5th is gay. Gay means happy and cheerful. 6 is jocund, means light-hearted and cheerful. And the last one is vacant, means absent-minded, empty, or detached from the present. Okay, move to the conclusion. So, the speakers walk alone, similar to a solitary cloud in the sky floating over hills and vales. Suddenly, the speaker sees a long and bustling row of daffodils. They are near the lake, and the trees unflutter and shift as they are blown by the breeze. Comparing the daffodil to stars in the sky, the speaker notes how the flowers seem to go on without ending, alongside a bay. The speaker guessed there are 10,000 or so daffodils, all of their heads moving as if they were dancing. Near the daffodils, the waves are glinting on the bay, but the daffodils seem more joyful to the speaker than the waves. A poet couldn't help being cheerful, says the speaker in the cheerful company of the daffodil. The speaker stares at the daffodil, lingeringly without yet realizing the full extent of the positive effect of encountering them. After the experience with the daffodils, the speaker often lies on the couch, either absent-minded or thoughtful. It is that the daffodils come back to the speaker's imaginative memory, access to which is a gift of solitude, and fills the speaker with joy as his mind stands with the daffodils. Wordsworth's I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud is a descriptive poem in which the author expresses the happiness he gets after enjoying the beauty of a great number of daffodils. He begins the poem by telling his loneliness. The solitude of his, however, is gradually lessened as he keeps on gazing the nice feature and movement of the daffodil. After describing how the blowing winds makes the flowers move, dance, and stretch continuously in an endless lines along the bay, the poet states that whenever he feels sad, he will try to recollect beauty of the daffodils in his mind. By doing this, he will directly find the bliss of solitude, which enables him to get happiness. The subject matter of this poem is the beauty of the daffodils seen by the poet, because nearly all of the lines are dominated by the description which emphasize those flowers' beauty. It is true that the poet sometimes talks about other things like stars on the Milky Way and waves on the lake beside the flowers, but these things are merely meant to be a comparison to emphasize the impression of the beauty of the daffodils. The poet states that the beauty of the dancing of the daffodil surpassed the dance of the lake. The waves beside them dance, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. Despite the fact that beauty of the daffodils dominate the poem, the poets do not present it for its own sake. He actually relates that beauty to his life in the first line by using a simile in which he compared himself to a floating cloud, precisely describing how deep his loneliness is. Then, in the final lines, he oscillates that the beauty of the daffodil facilitated him in a very precise quiet time to retrospect his life. After the retrospection, he finally managed to expel his sadness out. We can easily understand this phenomenon by realizing that solitude can be used as a good condition to make one's life to retrospection, to understand his true self. The world history has shown that monks and other holy men always use solitude to get more understanding about life. Considering this fact, we can say that the underlying idea or theme of this poem is that the beauty of nature is an effective facility for self-retrospection and suitable remedy for the poet's sadness. The use of the beauty of the nature as the theme of a work is actually typical of Wordsworth. Nearly in all of his poems, he worshipped the nature. What attracts him in the nature is not only its beauty, but also the existence of its restorative power, caused by his belief that the nature is the dwelling of the Supreme Being. That is why I Wander Lonely as a Cloud does not merely describe the beauty of the daffodil. It also expresses that the presence of God in the nature beauty makes it one of the best answers for one of the most ancient problems in human life, spiritual vacancy. Wordsworth's use of the beauty of the nature in this poem can be considered as his opposition towards the classics, who glorify the use of rational thinking rather than imaginative thinking to find the answer for human's life problem. Wordsworth believed that sometimes imaginative thinking is more useful. That is why, in this poem, he wrote, "I gazed and gazed, but little thought what well showed to me had broke." Through this line, Wordsworth probably means to emphasize the use of imagination, emotion, and feeling. In this poem, Wordsworth used image very extremely in order to let the reader involved in the experience he is communicating. For instance, now he is wandering and floating lonely as a cloud over vales and hills is important. They enable the reader to visualize the surrounding being described in the poem. Some other effective images are the golden daffodil that were fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Anyone who has observed a breezy day and the way that plants, flower, and water appear or move on such a day could easily see through Wordsworth's eyes these scenes. We see the soul of yellow, he says golden, and a mass of flowering, swaying and bending in the breeze. Wordsworth's use imagery in this poem really enabled the reader to share the experience being communicated. Okay guys, now move to assignment. There are 5 questions that you should answer it. First question, I wander lonely as a cloud. What figurative language is included? Okay. Second, what is hyperbole? Third, what is the symbol of daffodil? Third, give an example of metaphor in this poem. And fifth, what is the function of personification in this poem? I will give you 5 minutes to answer this question. So, answer it. Okay, it's already 5 minutes, so I will tell you what the answer is. For the first question, the answer is a simile. So, a simile is a figure of speech in which two essential dissimilar objects or concepts are externally compared with one another through the use of like or as. I wander lonely as a cloud. This means he compared his loneliness with a single cloud. So the answer is a simile. Second, what is hyperbole? Hyperbole is a figure of speech and literary device that create a heightened effect through deliberate exaggeration. Hyperbole is often a boldly overstated or exaggerated claim or statement that adds emphasis without the intention of being true. The third is the cloud is a symbol which represents loneliness. Moreover, the cloud is naturally incompatible with the earth's surface of human being, but the poet's close identification with the cloud reveals his loneliness, isolation, and desolation from the world around him. The fourth answer is they flash upon the inward eye, where inward eye suggests the mental vision or memory of daffodils. And the last one is this device mainly functions by ascribing human emotion to the natural world. This is not a one-way exchange. However, it is part of an overall argument for a closer relationship between human and nature, and seeing element of itself nature, humanity can see itself as a part of nature. Okay guys, maybe that's all for me. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye bye.